I brought all those people together into an online Facebook group where we've been managing and growing for the over 10 years. We have over 5,700 members with 2,300 people waiting. And together as a group, I take your voices of what you're telling me in this group, and I bring it to the elected officials at a provincial level or a municipal or regional level so that we can indeed create a fair and balanced housing system. Even with this third wave, this third lockdown, everything looks like it's full speed ahead, guys. They're still doing hearings, they're still issuing orders, and they're still issuing evictions.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and in today's video, we're going to be catching up with Kayla from Ontario Landlords Watch. So it's been a while since we sat down with Kayla at OLW, and we're going to catch up on everything landlord and Ontario oriented. So if you've been wondering what's going on with the Residential Tenancy Act, what's going on with the Landlord Tenant Bureau, you know, can you do evictions in 2021 in Ontario? We're going to cover a lot of that. Now, this was actually shot before the most recent shutdown, so there is currently a 28-day stay of evictions during the current lockdown. So that all occurred after the video that we shot that you're about to watch. But otherwise, yeah, I always really appreciate Kayla. She's an absolute wealth of knowledge. She's one of the few people really fighting for landlord rights in Ontario, and she's looking to expand it across Canada. So I really want to support Kayla. Hope you guys enjoyed. Smash the like, hit subscribe, and let's jump into it. All right, guys, we're back with Kayla. It's been a while since we actually had Kayla on the channel from Ontario Landlords Watch. Hey, Kayla, how's it going?
Hey, Matt, thanks so much for having me on again. I get excited every time I get to come on and talk with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to catch up. So do you mind let's lay it out for Ontario landlords coming into 2021. What sort of things should they be aware of? What resources should they be turning to? And yeah, just get us all up to speed.
Okay, so one, Landlord and Tenant Board is going from a Microsoft into a Zoom meeting. So this is going to be something of a change. Maybe you have your Zoom meet ready to go. So make sure you download your Zoom app, getting that on the go. And that's going to help you with the organization. So it's not going to be so crazy at the Landlord and Tenant Board. Number two, Landlord and Tenant Board is still underneath investigation by the Ontario Ombudsman. So we really encourage our members to contact the Ontario Ombudsman if they're still experiencing delays at the Landlord and Tenant Board, because I assure you that they will, and that you need to make sure that you're making your complaint with the Ontario Ombudsman. We do have more changes coming from the Attorney General's office, so that we're going to be able to see more changes happening on the case management, more of the digital first. Maybe a lot of applications may not get to a full-on hearing. So we're going to see this unravel in the next couple of months. It's going to be implemented by the summer, and it's going to model what BC is. So get your crash course of connecting with the BC landlords, and you're going to be able to see what's going on there. And number one, landlords, if you're dealing with tenants who are not paying their rent, it's either at no fault of theirs or it's just because they're abusing the system. Get yourself into a document mindset. You got to show your tenants that you're trying to work with them and you're going to work with them, and you want to have that paper that you can show an adjudicator that you've tried to work with your tenant and they refuse to work with you. I like to put a little icing on top of my cupcake. So when you give the tenant an N4 application, you're also sending them links to different government services that help them with rent relief. If it's a rent bank, or it's going to be a portable housing benefit, or it's going to be the Canada Recovery benefit. Always connect them to where they can seek type of rent relief so that they can go and seek for it and give it to you, keep them in their house. So by the time that you're showing this document to the adjudicator, you would hope that the adjudicator would side with you and give you 11-day standard order. And your paperwork, oh my goodness. I'm listening to different applications happening all the time. We have to make sure that we're getting our paper on the go, and we are going to have our paralegal do a Zoom meeting with the Ontario Landlords Watch members very shortly, so that way we can teach everybody on the most common mistakes and fill out these forms together so that we can really help avoid these delays that are happening at the Landlord and Tenant Board, which is obviously those delays are going to adjourn that hearing. And now you're going to be in the pipeline, another wait time just to have your case heard. So it's hopefully speed up that process at the Landlord and Tenant Board. So that's like a little bit of the crash course going on in
Awesome. Yeah.
2021.
Really appreciate that. And so let's take a step back as well, because it's probably been a while. I know it's been a while since you were on the channel. So for anyone that's maybe never heard of OLW, do you mind kind of just laying out what your organization is?
Yeah, so Ontario Landlords Watch was started in 2010 as I was fighting the city of Cambridge over the water billing. We had a petition that was drafted. We sent that out all over Ontario, and it came back with signatures and support, but it also came with notes to say, hey, I want you to help me fight the Residential and Tenancy Act and Landlord and Tenant Board. So I brought all those people together into an online Facebook group where we've been managing and growing for the over 10 years. We have over 5,700 members with 2,300 people waiting. And I am trying to let them in this class as quick as I can, but we're on a mission in this group to really understand the issues of the housing market and to understand this and create the solutions. And together as a group, I take your voices of what you're telling me in this group, and I bring it to the elected officials at a provincial level or a municipal or regional level so that we can indeed create a fair and balanced housing system for both good landlords, good tenants, and taxpayers.
Awesome. Yeah, love it. And love everything you're doing, and really want to encourage everyone to look into joining OLW as well. And if they want to support, like, what's the best way to really support everything you're doing?
Tell everybody about it. You know, and we have multiple different landlord groups out there, and it's a great way for us to stay connected. But telling your friends about Ontario Landlords Watch and inviting them into our group can definitely support the movement. And then the other part of being able to support what we've been doing is that I've been advocating for 10 years. And I've talked to many different type of people and elected officials. And we're getting timbits, you know, we're getting to the seating table. We're getting these changes that are happening at the Attorney General now, which is digital. So things are happening a lot quickly. But again, we can't put all of our faith, guys, into the government. And I've learned that over the years that we'll be holding our breath and going blue in the face. So what I've done is created an idea of going out to different products and services, getting to know everyone else out there who has a product or a service that relates to the residential industry and is able to protect landlords. And that's when I found Landlord Credit Bureau. And throughout since August of last year, it was nothing but pleasure speaking with people and really understanding, like, is this legal? How can you do this? What am I going to get in trouble? Like, I made sure that I did my part and really asked them these type of questions. And I started using it. And I see instant results to the point where I felt the need to tell our landlords about reporting their tenants' monthly payment history to the Landlord Credit Bureau, because it's not just a database to report your monthly payment history. It's going to their Equifax report. So as you report the LCB, it gets reported to Equifax in the middle of the month for the previous month. So if we have a tenant who is paying on time and they're great tenants, you're now going to help them build their credit. And now if they have a tenant who is not a great tenant and wants to abuse the system or just wants to take advantage of the system, now it's going to have the impact a consequence. So it's going to affect their credit. And that's a part as landlords is out. Sometimes when we have people who have crappy credit, sometimes that does not always determine if they pay their rent on time. So when you're doing a tenancy search with Landlord Credit Bureau, you're now going to be able to see that monthly payment history. And you're also going to be able to see the reviews that landlords have left that tenant. So it's the game changer. It's the game changer that is going to give us what we need. Because I know that the Landlord and Tenant Board, when we do have our meetings with them, other members would talk about, hey, you're supposed to show us this stuff online, like any case that's coming. You don't got their full name, but you're able to show the case management and putting it online for landlords to view. They can't do it quick enough. They're barely able to get their orders out right now. So this is something that is eventually going to come from a Landlord and Tenant Board, from knowing who's been brought to the board. But we can't wait that long. At least now landlords can unite underneath Landlord Credit Bureau. And that's what my next 10 years I hope to do, is to inform as many people about LCB as I possibly can. And I always talk to people about you. I'm like, I have so many people messaging me and they're like, oh, I want to get into real estate. I'm like, the best person for you to get into real estate with first, because I'll scare the shit out of you. I'm like, we're going to get Matt McKeever and his team, because you guys, I feel like you're creating these these investors who want that financial freedom, the ones who are going to contribute into creating supply into the market. So this is where they got to go first. Then once they go to you, they got to come over to me. We'll help them with the management ideas, how to manage their properties, and make sure that I teach them how to advocate for their rental housing business. And then I tell them about Landlord Credit Bureau. It's a three punch. Matt, Kayla, LCB.
Yeah, I definitely can understand the desire for investors to want to move at least a little bit of their wealth into other assets with what's going on in real estate.
Yeah, it's well, when you hear different investors out there and they talk about the market going to take a dive of 40%, and they talked about it taking a dive, but instead it went the opposite way, right? So honestly, it's almost like that the thing of silver, you know, they talk about a silver squeeze and it's supposed to go up, maybe it's going down, we don't really know, but it's still something that each and every landlord needs to try to explore, and especially for people who are wanting to get into it. It's more of what's in your house? What kind of house do you have? Can you get yourself into a secondary suite? And this is what our recent meeting that I had with the City of Cambridge well-being community, because they really talk about mental health and addiction and housing, and they talk about different services to appeal to people of the city. So when I got to do a presentation to them about Ontario Landlords Watch and how we are trying to be their partner, but we have too many problems at a provincial level that stops us from wanting to help out the city and taking the pressure off the city for housing. And a lot of them were like, well, shocked. They were shocked to see why landlords are not signing up with the city for their programs, and why we are choosing to continue to advocate to them, because we need the municipality and the region to help us advocate at a provincial level in order to keep this a hype. Because even though I've even said to them, because we actually have a safe injection site that's trying to come into one of our areas that we have a rental for. And we're like, if you are putting a safe injection site in here in a residential area, my tenants are going to leave. You're destroying the business that we've created there. But most importantly, when you look at reaching out to the community to find out what their thoughts are about a safe injection site in their community, and they keep saying, no, are you going to put a safe injection site there? Because we got to take part into, and I'm sure everyone, if you're listening all over Ontario, listen to online forums of your city council. They'll actually go through the process of what it takes for you to legalize a secondary suite. So you're getting permission, you're going in front of the planners, and you're trying to vouch why you want a secondary suite. And the stuff that they would actually say no to is ridiculous, because in Cambridge, you have here's your plan, here's your house, this is the footprint. You actually have community members being able to come and speak to this council in order to tell the council why they don't feel a secondary suite should be put into that in particular unit. And I've told this committee that I recently spoke to, I said, listen, this is the problem right here, is that you're preventing people who want to create secondary suites, who want to contribute into being a housing provider, and you're preventing them from doing it for minor little things such as, oh, there's not enough parking. Well, maybe not enough parking, but maybe I'm trying to market to a person who doesn't have a car, you know, and this is a way to get more supplies. They talk about green space. There's not enough green space. Dude, there's not enough housing. Let's worry about the green space. Go to the park.
Yeah, that sounds like a secondary concern when they say that there's a housing crisis, right?
Yeah, so we have a lot more work that needs to be cut out, but you can see that even with COVID, you know, now that every landlord needs to know that the landlord and tenant board, we're at that seating, we're at the table, we're discussing these things with them now. They finally, anytime there's a meeting that's happening, we're not only able to give our issues, but mostly we bring our solutions to these type of meetings with the landlord and tenant board. So massive changes are happening. And even though we had COVID and everything went digital because of COVID, this was actually in the thinking process before COVID, of making things digital. And just because it's digital first, it doesn't mean that it's digital only, but this is going to be that new system, the case management system that the Attorney General is now coming out. So this is going to model a lot of what BC has done, and it's been working, and they've had this tool in BC for over 4 years. So now that you're able to do the remote hearings, you're going to get access to these type of hearings a lot faster and get cases dealt with before they even have to go to a hearing. So this is all going to happen now through the summer. So stay tuned to see what happens there. But the Landlord and Tenant Board has adjusted their hearings through the Landlord and Tenant Board, where it used to be through Microsoft. Now it's now going through Zoom. So they're going to have some breakout sections for you to get, well, for the tenants to get legal aid, and as well as to work with dispute resolution. So if they want to do mediation, and this is a way for them to kind of cool down on the tenant activists who've been shutting down the Landlord and Tenant Board, trying to fight it and help tenants avoid eviction. So we're looking forward to seeing what happens and how Zoom is going to improve the Landlord and Tenant Board. But again, we have to stress that even though they're making all these changes and you can now bring utilities to the Landlord and Tenant Board, we still have the problem being the biggest application brought to the Landlord and Tenant Board. It's non-payment of rent. And that right there needs to be the one that needs to be dealt with. And that's why when we spoke with this Wellbeing Community Committee, and my mayor was on there, she said, Kayla, what would be the number one thing that you want our city to do? What would one thing? And I'm like, well, I would like to be, as a landlord, that if I have a tenant who, you know, is either A, in hardship situation, or B, abusing the situation, I want to be able to take this application that I'm giving them, the N4 application, I want to bring it to the city. And I want to say, this tenant is not paying me. I want you to pay me. And this is a way for us to know which ones are actually in hardship situations or ones that you can go back onto the tenant. Because if they look at what it's costing taxpayers to house people into hotels and motels, it's $3,000 a month. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm cheaper. I don't know how I'm cheaper, but I'm cheaper.
Yeah.
So if we can have this, you know, rent bank, this portable housing benefit, but utilize it where it's not just the tenant asking for it, it's a way for the landlord to ask for it. And that way it keeps people in their homes longer, and it keeps the tenants off the street, and it keeps it from being so costly, the taxpayers, and the need for creating more government housing that we need to build, manage, maintain, subsidize. Like landlords, we are the solution. Private landlords are the solution, but because of the provincial and municipal and regional policies, such as landlord licensing and water billing and that type of policies, and preventing and the restrictions, this is why we now see more pressure onto our government.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate it, Kayla. We'll throw a link to everything you mentioned in the video description down below. And again, just want to encourage everyone to make sure they reach out, join OLW on Facebook. And I think it's just really important as landlords to constantly make sure that your voice is heard, because it can be really easy to have it be drowned out amongst the other advocacy groups.
Oh my God, like the rent strike movement. Man, where did that get from?
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to see that, you know, when we talk about that, we fought for that. And even though the government still didn't give any rent relief technically to the residential landlords, they give it to commercial. It still goes into the concept that we're still supporting each other. We're still holding on. We just got to guide the tenants to these type of rent benefits, but then the landlords are still able to still get justice. Even with this third wave, this third lockdown, everything looks like it's full speed ahead, guys. They're still doing hearings, they're still issuing orders, and they're still issuing evictions. So we don't say it too loud in the group, because we don't want the tenant activists to start trying to champion another eviction ban, because there's many investors out there that can't hold on for that.
Yeah. Love it. Really well said. As always, really appreciate these calls, Kayla, and it's been way too long. So definitely I'll make sure that we maybe try and make them a quarterly reoccurrence. But again, link in the video description down below, everyone, to grab everything we chat about.
Thanks again to Kayla for taking the time to shoot this video. If you guys are interested in joining Ontario's Landlords Watch, you want to learn more, maybe you want to get in contact with Kayla, we'll throw a link to their Facebook group in the video description down below. Again, it's an amazing organization. Kayla has came out to our OREC events in the past when we were allowed to do in-person events. So again, really love supporting Kayla and everything she does, because it's really important for me, for you guys as landlords. It's important that both sides of the conversation get discussed here, not just tenant rights.